Hey, it's Eric from Late to the Game Outdoors, coming at you with another car-related video here. I leave for elk hunting in 4 days, so I am beyond pumped, but I also have 1,000 things I'm trying to check off the list. One of those is giving the old Jeep its usual pre-road trip inspection. I know it needs an oil change, and then just kind of want to walk through a lot of the things that I check before driving it a couple hours up north, and also heading down some pretty nasty dirt roads where if something breaks down, there's no tow truck coming to rescue me. So I like to go with confidence, knowing that I've checked everything out and that the Jeep should be good to go. Whether you're a car guy or not, this is just a good reminder of the stuff to check into to make sure is in good shape on your vehicle before heading out on any trip, especially going back into the wilderness somewhere where help is not so easy to come by. And if you're not a car guy, maybe this will just help you understand a little bit more about what's under the hood of your car, what you're looking at, maybe what to look for before you head out on a trip. And so rather than spending $80, $100, however many dollars a shop will charge you just to give everything a once over, you could bust out a few basic tools and do it yourself, and then head into the woods with some confidence, knowing that your rig's in good shape, and unless something crazy goes wrong, you should be fine. Also, as part of this, going to kind of go over the emergency kit that I keep in the car when I'm going anywhere far away. Just sort of what tools, what fluids, what supplies I keep there on hand and why. Maybe just provide a little checklist for you to think through, or maybe a reminder of something you want to pick up at the parts store on your way out of town. So with all that said, let's get started. So first part of the inspection is just coming under the car. And I'm just looking for leaks or cracks or stuff that's super broken. Everything here looks obviously a little old, a little grimy, which is what you'll get in a car that is 24 years old, but nothing that would cause alarm. Like I said, I drive this thing every day, so a lot of stuff that's like major, I would already have known about. But this is just the check the bottom of the radiator for cracks or coolant coming down. There's actually some pine needles gunked up in there. Always a good idea to clear those out. More efficient cooling. Alright, so up under the car, inspecting stuff, discovered one little problem. This guy right here, this is a bad O-ring in the fitting of one of my AC lines. Now, that's, I would love to fix that right away, but that's a pain in the butt because that involves taking the Jeep to a shop, having them evacuate the whole AC system. I pull this apart and replace the O-ring, put it all back together, fill it back full of Freon. Definitely a repair I will do, but not in the 4 days I have before elk season. Plus, it's cool up in the mountains. Who needs AC? Alright, so up top on the hood, I'm again looking for leaks or cracks. Squeeze these radiator hoses, make sure they're not brittle, old, and dry. Check the belt. The belt is huge. You want to make sure the deflection is good, which is just measures how tight it is, so that it's on correctly. And you're definitely looking for cracks or brittleness. This one looks great. No problems there. Obviously, before any trip, I'm going to check my major fluids, oil being the most important one. Like I said earlier, I just changed the oil because it was due for one. So I know the oil level's good, but just to walk you through that process, you pull out your oil dipstick, wipe it down with a rag, put it back in all the way down, and then check your level. In this case, it's perfect. Oil could not be cleaner. If you're a total newbie to cars, the oil dipstick will usually be yellow or marked oil or some combination of both, kind of mid to back on the engine, on either side really. If you have an automatic transmission, that'll be a separate dipstick, which is red, and it's usually towards the very back. If you happen to have a front-wheel drive car, all of this is sideways, and it's much different, but frankly, if you have a front-wheel drive car, you're probably not taking it down any crazy roads because there just aren't a lot of off-road capable vehicles that are front-wheel drive. I always take a look at the battery because that's the first thing to go wrong, make your car not start. Both the age of it, in this case it's just over 2 years old, which in Phoenix we get a max of 3 years out of our batteries. It's like clockwork. At 3 years they die. So this one's still all right. And check your terminals for corrosion, for looseness. These are doing fine because I replaced them after last year's hunt when my father-in-law was driving this at the time and the car would not start. So had to scrape and clean and make do back on the trail to get this thing up and running. And then when we got home, replaced them with fresh, clean terminals, and these still look totally fine. All right, of course, it's always good to check the air filter. If it's clogged before you head down some dirt roads, it's going to be ultra clogged when you get done going down some dirt roads. Pull this bad boy out. Whew. And this is one of the those reusable K&N high performance things, and it desperately needs to be cleaned. So we're going to do that. All right, the brakes haven't been giving me any problems, but while I'm checking all the fluids, it's kind of an important one to check, and spill everywhere, just like that. All right, that is fine. Wipe this up so I don't see the spill later and think, oh no, I've sprung a leak. And power steering. Hey, with a dead bee stuck to the cap. Nice. Just like any other dipstick on here. Push it all the way in to the full cold line. Perfect. All right, and I've got no leaks, no overheating, no signs of losing coolant, but I always like to check. It's been a few hours since I drove this, but engines take forever to cool down in the desert, so I'm using a rag just to make sure I don't blow this cap off in my face. And perfect. Totally full. All right, all the mechanical stuff has checked out so far. The last thing I need to do is this guy's overdue for its tires being rotated, so I'm going to take care of that while I'm in there. Just going to check the brakes, blow out any dust that's in there, try to eliminate some squeal that I'm having from time to time, or discover that the squeal is because the brakes need to be done, in which case I'll be doing that. Okay, the basic principle of rotating your tires is simple. You take them off and you rotate where they are. Which type of drivetrain you have determines how to rotate them. So this Jeep is four-wheel drive, which means you rotate them in an X like you think you would. So fronts go to back, backs go to front, and they switch sides in both cases. The tricky thing is that if you have a two-wheel drive vehicle, the drivetrain wheels, the ones that the engine actually powers, cross as they go front to back or back to front, whereas the wheels that are just spinning there, not being powered by the engine, go straight back or forward as the case may be. That sounds super confusing. You can Google it. There's a bunch of diagrams, but know which way your tires are supposed to rotate, because that will determine their ability to wear evenly and get the most life out of your tires. Also, while I'm in here, I'm checking the brakes. The rear brakes on this Jeep are drum brakes, which is much older school technology, but still works. The problem is that they collect a lot of dust, which can lead to squeal, and I want to inspect them anyway. So you basically pop the drum off, and then I take the little blower nozzle from my air compressor and just blow all that dust out of there. It's not really good to breathe it in, so I try to take a big deep breath and do most of it without breathing. All right, well, this is why we do these checks. In rotating the tires, found out I definitely need front brakes. I mean, those pads are just worn down. It's not metal on metal, but it doesn't have much left. And there's a few stretches coming down some pretty significant hills up there that I don't want to be taking on those brakes. So, looks like I'm headed to the parts store. Rears are fine, fortunately. Those tires are already swapped out. Just need to run up and pick up some brake pads, and then we'll be good to go. All right, guys, here's just a little bit of what I bring with me on any trip like this. This doesn't sit in my Jeep all year round, but on a big trip, especially going into the woods, here's what I bring. I got a couple jugs of water in case I lose all my coolant. This time of year and where I'm going, freezing is not an issue, so I use water instead of antifreeze because it's cheaper. Jug of oil, obviously. I've got an extra belt, which is actually an old belt, but it'll work if I'm stuck. Toe chains and a toe strap for myself or somebody else who gets stuck. Brake fluid, power steering fluid. I try to have all the fluids on me so that if something breaks and spills everywhere, I can patch it up and refill it to get off the trail. Of course, jumper cables and my big old bag of tools. In this little bag, I've got a set of gloves because most often if I'm using this stuff, everything's hot. This stuff right here, you can find under a bunch of different names. Quick Steel, Steel Stick, it's a JB Weld kind of product, but a little putty that can repair anything you break. I've got some vice grips, which are hugely helpful. There's a little socket set buried in here. A couple of wrenches, some pliers. It's basically just a bunch of old tools and mismatched things that I have thrown together in this well-worn Cabela's bag, and it just lives in the back of my truck. So that's just a little picture of what I like to keep on hand to rescue myself if needed, or even be able to lend a hand if somebody else finds themselves stuck. Should cover all the basics to, at the very least, get you out of the woods and back to where a tow truck can get to you, or you can get to a parts store or shop and get yourself more permanently fixed up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helps somebody out, helps you prevent a breakdown back on a dirt road somewhere. If this is all helpful and you're enjoying the content, please follow me on Instagram, subscribe on the YouTube channel, and let's just continue to learn together how to be better outdoorsmen and better men in general.